Hey, folks, welcome to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and I'm still waiting on Danny Gillette. He's usually joining me on these Saturday morning chats. Maybe he hasn't got quite out of bed yet, but I'm sure he'll be joining us here in a minute. So we're just going to talk a little Nebraska football here on the bye week. So if you guys are joining on the Husker Big Red social channels or the Big Red Benter page, it's great to see you here on this Saturday morning, and be sure to join the chat. Let me know if you have anything you'd like to discuss here today on the Husker Big Red YouTube channel about Nebraska. Obviously, the Huskers don't have a game today. They are, during their bye week right now, sitting at 3-3. But a lot of important stuff going on today in the Big Ten. Obviously, Wisconsin and Iowa are playing in an important Big Ten West game that could really have an impact on the Cornhuskers going forward. So that'll be an interesting game to watch. Obviously, a lot of things to discuss still this week with Nebraska. A lot of things are happening on the recruiting trail. Grant Bricks, kind of some updates there. Keywan Lacey, Carter Nelson. Coach Rule is doing a lot of stuff on the recruiting trail. So a lot of exciting things happening right now for Nebraska football. Looking back, I guess, at these first 6 games, to me, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I know it hasn't always been perfect. I know there's been a lot of issues with turnovers. Obviously, the fumbles have, really been kind of baffling in some ways, just to see like the consistent, issues with turnovers and hanging on to the football. So obviously Coach Rule, addressed that, said that that's something that they need to get fixed. But I think there's still a lot of things to feel good about, looking at, the defensive side of the ball and just running the football. Nebraska is one of, 2 teams in the FBS right now that has rushed for 1,200 yards and only allowed 500 yards rushing. So I think that that's a really positive thing, going into the second half of the season. I know Michigan obviously ran for 250 yards against Nebraska, but not everybody is Michigan. So it's hard to say, oh, the run defense isn't good because of the Michigan game. Well, Michigan is one of the best teams in the country, and we saw that what they did last week to Minnesota. They pounded Minnesota even worse than they beat Nebraska. So I don't think you can take too much away from that type of a loss, but overall, I think that Matt Rule is establishing the kind of football that Nebraska fans want to see and that can win. In the Big Ten this year, obviously, they won a Big Ten road game at Illinois, which I thought was a huge step forward. Obviously, Illinois has won the last 2 games against Nebraska. That was the first time Nebraska beat Brett Bielema as the head coach, and it was just kind of the opposite of what happened the previous years. Illinois made mistakes. Nebraska was the more physical team, and they were able to come away with the win. And to me, I thought that was refreshing to see Nebraska be the one that was kind of dictating the physicality to another team instead of getting that dictated to them, which happened too much under the Scott Frost and even the Mike Riley era. So I thought that was a really good thing to see. If you guys are checking out the stream, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Even if you're watching this on the replay, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly chats or podcasts. We have a lot of great Nebraska content. We also have a lot of great stuff over at huskerbigred.com. I actually posted something yesterday about Matt Rule, got retweeted by Kevin Durant this week. He had it was one of his pregame speeches, essentially, that kind of went viral. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. That's at huskerbigred.com. It's a really cool kind of a pregame speech where Matt just kind of lays it on the line for the team. And if that doesn't get you fired up to be a Nebraska football fan, then I don't know what will. It got me fired up and definitely got the team fired up. I believe that was before the Northern Illinois game. So yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't seen that. It's going to be a fun day of college football, even though Nebraska is not playing. There's a pretty exciting slate of games: Notre Dame, USC, like I said, Wisconsin, Iowa in the Big Ten. Let's see who else is playing today. At any rate, that Wisconsin-Iowa game, it does have a big impact on Nebraska because, not that I necessarily want Iowa to win. I don't ever, really like to cheer for Iowa, but if Iowa was able to beat Wisconsin, that would really throw, just kind of a wrench into the Big Ten mix. Nebraska does have 2 losses. They're 1-2, and I'm not trying to, build it up or, build up any, hype or anything, but Northwestern, the next two games for Nebraska are very winnable. I'll just say that. at home against Northwestern and Purdue. And if you can win those 2 games, you'd be sitting at 3-2. And if Wisconsin loses to Iowa on Saturday, they'd only have 1 loss. So technically, Nebraska would, control its own destiny because they still play Iowa and Wisconsin. So I'm not saying that they're going to win out or anything like that, but I don't think Iowa and Wisconsin are probably going to win out either. I know the Badgers have a pretty manageable schedule, so it's certainly possible, but it would be interesting to see if Nebraska can kind of get into that mix here with the Big Ten West. Weather is terrible right now. Thanks for the comment, Sam. I am. Weather is terrible right now here in Madison. The air raid will struggle. Yeah, it's kind of a monsoon. That's interesting. It's bad there because I know it's supposed to be bad for the Michigan-Indiana game. And frankly, I think the air raid hasn't been that great for Wisconsin. Tanner Mordecai only has 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions so far this season. I know Braylon Allen has really been the straw that stirs the drink for the Badgers. It's averaging like 6.7 yards per carry. That's the kind of back Nebraska needs. If there's one thing I'm looking at this team, just thinking about Wisconsin that, maybe the Badgers have that Nebraska doesn't, it's a Braylon Allen. And, Gabe Ervin, I think, was a really solid player. I don't think that he was a Braylon Allen type, but it still hurts to not have him. And speaking of, dynamic running backs on this topic, if you guys haven't seen, the stuff about Kewan Lacey, Florida, Kewan Lacey is a 4-star running back committed to Nebraska, but SEC schools are really coming for him. Florida just offered him. Alabama, is talking to him. Lane Kiffin just paid a visit to him at Lancaster, Texas. So he's definitely trending up. But EJ Barthel was there to see him last night, so that was a good move by the Cornhuskers, and hopefully they can, hold on to his commitment because speaking of dynamic running backs, I really think he could be one. And in this 2024 class, there's a few guys that I think could really make an impact on this offense, and Kewan Lacey, is right there. Obviously, Carter Nelson's going to be a star. Matt Rule was at, he was down in Ainsworth yesterday. They had a pep assembly, and Matt Rule was pictured there. So that's a smart move. He saw Grant Brix this week, and you get one bye week basically as a coaching staff, and so Matt Rule only has so much time and resources to devote to kind of the recruiting trail. And I think it was really smart by him to go see Brix and to go see Carter Nelson, because those are 2 of the big the big guys. I know Carter Nelson's already committed, but Notre Dame is still recruiting him. And, you have some of these guys, you just really have to recruit till the final bell. So he's one that Nebraska can't afford to let get away. He's too big of a playmaker. But Brix, it'll be interesting. There's no decision timetable still for Grant Brix. He did talk with Brian Munson of Husker Online this week, if you didn't see that. Not a lot of new information, but we do know that basically Brix has got a visit from Matt Rule this week, so I think that that's a good thing. And he's just not a kid that's really in the limelight. But Oklahoma, took a commitment from a different tackle, so that'll be something to watch. Let's see here. So has he officially opened his recruiting, or just being polite, referring to Lacey? I haven't seen an actual quote from him. He did talk. There was a quote from him. He actually talked to the SMU site for On3, who actually is another school that's talking to him. He said that he's hearing from every school basically in his top 12. He's still kind of talking to. He did, when asked about his Nebraska commitment, he said it was good. So he hasn't, officially reopened anything. I think he's just, there's a lot of interest there. I guess I would see, if he takes a visit to Florida, or if he takes a visit to Ole Miss, or if he goes to see Alabama, then maybe I'll be a little more concerned. He was just at Nebraska for the Michigan game, I believe. So, not that was the best, outing for him to be there, but I'm not convinced that recruits really, buy or sell your program based off wins. I mean, yeah, if you're Georgia or Michigan, or, you're winning championships, I think that helps, but I don't think necessarily because you have one bad game, under a first-year head coach that, a guy's not going to come. But it is concerning because the running back room is very light. It's very thin on depth right now, as we've seen. The 2024 class is thin on depth. And, there's only one running back in there, and it's Keenwan Lacey, and he could be a superstar. He could be the next. Well, I compare him to AJ Allen, who I think I wish AJ Allen was still on this team. But at any rate, he's a guy that Nebraska can't afford to miss out of this class. Obviously, Carter Nelson's another one, and Caleb Benning. I'm hoping to see that Caleb Benning would get a visit from the Nebraska staff. Yeah, definitely some other news, Sam. Yeah, the Caleb Pyfrom decommitted from Illinois, and that is an interesting topic because he was recruited by Nebraska, I guess, to be a guard. Now, yeah, there was a lot of right before his decision, there was a kind of a whole kerfluffle, whether Nebraska wanted him or whether they didn't want him. And then there was talk that Nebraska wanted him as a guard as opposed to a tackle, which from a recruiting perspective, and you think if you're really thinking long term, like if you're Caleb Pyfrom, being a tackle could potentially get you more money. It's a more premier position and that type of thing. So that seemed to play a factor. But decommitted last week. I'm not sure if, I haven't really heard or seen any reporting even this week that said Nebraska's like reached out or been in contact or is the number one reason why he did that. So I don't know exactly what's going on with the Pyfrom situation. I thought that he could potentially play. He looks like a tackle, his body type to me. He's 6'5". Not that I'm not, I don't have the scouting of the coaching staff or whatever, but it just would be if they do think he can play tackle, potentially they can reach out to him. But I definitely think the focus is on Bricks, and if you can get Bricks and Prex, and you got Preston Tauma, that's a pretty good class with some of these other guys. So looks like we will potentially have Danny hopping in to join us here a little bit. Just overslept a second on Saturday. I bet we move on if Bricks picks OU. Yeah, I would think so. I think he's gonna. I don't have any like intel or anything, but I feel like Nebraska is still in a good spot with Bricks. Oklahoma, they are going to have a lot to offer, and their offensive line is always great. Their offense is great. They're going to be playing in the SEC, and they probably have a little more NIL. I think Nebraska's NIL is definitely getting there, though. It's not like something I'm super concerned about anymore. I think they're going to have to get it working, to get the tackle that everybody knows that they need in the transfer portal this year. So that'll be interesting to watch. But and I'm not saying that just because Oklahoma took another tackle that they're not going to recruit Grant Bricks. The Grant Bricks is ranked 64th in the overall in the entire 2024 class. So he keeps moving up. He's the number 4 number 4 offensive tackle, and man, he's an exceptional run blocker. He fires off the ball. He's physical. In a lot of ways, I said this, and I'm not just saying this because Nebraska didn't get Brandon Baker, but in a lot of ways, I like him more than Brandon Baker just because he's an absolute mauler. Like he looks like he's just looking for somebody to pancake block. So at any rate, maybe not quite as good a pass blocker as Brandon Baker, and I know that's kind of more what they're looking for at the next level. But for what Nebraska wants and for what they're trying to establish, like I think Grant Bricks is the perfect player. So hopefully, they'll be able to get it done. It's really interesting in the reporting. Brian Munson said, it wouldn't shock me. I thought in this process that it wouldn't shock me if he just went and like signed somewhere on signing day and he didn't even announce it. He just said that's the kind of guy that Grant Bricks is, which is totally opposite of what you see on the recruiting trail anymore. So I think he'd be a perfect Tusker. Go Big Red Steve from Spring, Texas. Go Big Red Steve. It's good to have some Nebraska fans down in the Longhorn State. And he's got he does have lots of good room. You're right, Sam. In terms of Grant Bricks, he's like 6'5", 285 pounds right now. So yeah, get him with Corey Campbell, and that would be a huge get. I know Carter Nelson was a huge get, but like Grant Bricks is a dude that's like, he just looks like an NFL player. And if you can, and frankly, I think Preston Tauma has that ability too. I think that's really one of the most underrated commitments of this entire class is Tauma. So, if you add Grant Bricks to that and, Gibson Pyle too. He's really underrated. He got invited to the All American Bowl, and he's another guy that I think he plays tackle right now at high school, and he's going to be playing guard for Nebraska. But he's like a 6'4" guy, and he's another one that he's a mauler. He really is a mauler, and I think he's going to really fit well with this kind of program and what they want to do. And it's going to be fun to see. Him kind of mesh. I just think that run the ball mentality and this kind of mentality that Matt Rule's trying to build, I feel like Gibson Pyle is like perfect for that because he's just a tough dude. When you watch it, when you talk about people that finish blocks, like Gibson Pyle finishes blocks. Like he wants to punish people. We actually did an interview with him. I think after he committed, it might have been this summer. I can't quite remember. But you'll have to check that out on the channel. I can even post a link here in the chat. But it was really fun talking to him, and we'll have to get him on here again after his senior season to see how things go. I believe he got hurt. Now that I'm talking, I believe he did get hurt. But at any rate, still, another really great piece coming along the offensive line. And it is nice to. I just have to say this: this bye week would have really sucked if Nebraska had lost to Illinois. I would still be pissed off about it because like once for me, I go through like this cycle of if you win, if you lose, it's like that cycle of grief. I'm like pissed off, and then I forget what the other cycles are. But anyway, about Tuesday or Wednesday, you know how it goes. I start to get more optimistic, and I have that game to look forward to. But if you're on the bye week and you don't even have the game to look forward to, like, man, that is brutal. So, it'll be interesting to see basically how everybody is coming out of, the bye week, but and how everybody kind of spends their bye week. Sorry, I got sidetracked there just a little bit. But at any rate, I'm going to enjoy watching football today a lot more. I'm going to actually enjoy, watching this Iowa and Wisconsin game more because Nebraska is more in the mix, right? Like we talked about, and just some of these other games. So it's going to be a fun day of college football. I don't know what anybody else is watching. I love to watch the Big Ten games, but definitely Oregon, Washington. I was trying to think of that game earlier. Definitely want to see how that kind of plays out. I don't know if anybody stayed up to watch last night, but Coach Prime and everybody dropped a 29 nothing lead to Stanford, the worst team in college football. So that was not funny. I'm not trying to laugh at their it was the Stanford offensive linemen were doing the watch thing, going around doing the watch thing. And it's like, if you celebrate like that, if you rub things in people's face like that, then, you open yourself up to that type of thing. And it's always better to, in my opinion, just win with class, celebrate with your teammates. You don't need to rub it in other people's faces. So at any rate, we've got Danny.
Just woke up, so if I'm a little groggy, that's why. I was like, why did I set my alarm for 7 o'clock my time today? Then I checked my messages around 8:45. It's like, oh, it's Chris. I had a show today. So hello, everybody. Hello, chat. Hello, Chris.
How's it going, man? How you making it through the bye week?
I'm bored. I mean, see, that's the thing. A bye week just completely throws my entire schedule off. I have nothing to do. No news to really write about this week. Although you did write about some, but no game reports or injury reports or things like that. So, I mean, I'm kind of off schedule. I'm kind of looking forward to a game next week just to kind of get back into my normal routine.
It will be fun to get back into a normal routine and a normal game. And who knows, man? Maybe by the end of today, we'll only be one game out of the Big Ten West. Not that I want to. I was saying that before you came here. I don't like to root for Iowa, but I wouldn't mind if they won today. And then just like jumbling up the Big Ten. Yeah, I don't know how Deacon Hill is not good though, so I'm not sure how, but. Maybe a few of those, they can get safeties though,
See, that's the thing about the Big Ten West. I feel like in past years it's been kind of wide open, but we just haven't been able to take advantage of it. With this coaching staff, I feel like anything can happen and we can maybe finally make some inroads. Because even last year, once we started winning a couple games, there was a path where we could win the Big Ten West, and we just obviously didn't have everything together, but we still kind of, had some good wins there in the middle of the season. So this year, maybe we can finally, have things come full circle, so to speak.
And it'll be, yeah, I'm interested just to see how things play out in the Big Ten today. And I know Purdue's got like Ohio State, and so I just feel like Nebraska. It's a good week to have a bye week. Not that there's ever a good week to have a bye week, but coming off a win, Illinois is at Maryland. It's yeah, it's kind of a tough day. There's some tough games for Big Ten West teams, so we'll see. But yeah, there's not been a ton of news, but let's see. We got a question here from Steve. What do we do about the quarterback spot to try to have a great passer as well as runner the portal, or just develop incoming freshmen? We need a true quarterback. What do you think, Danny?
See, my heart says, my head says portal, right? Because we need somebody to kind of bridge over or help out Danny Kalen develop. But I would love to see, just as a fan, Kalen start and then have him for multiple years, because we really have, like, we did have Adrian Martinez, right? But since then, obviously, it's only been 1 or 2 seasons. It's kind of been inconsistent at the quarterback position. And say what you want about Adrian Martinez, good or bad, you knew who the starter was for 4 years. So, I mean, part of me wants a portal quarterback. The other part of me, wants to see Kalen develop. Now, I understand putting a freshman under center is extremely difficult, but I mean, at the same time, this is why we recruited him. This is why he probably came here, and not for nothing, but with the wide receiver depth shaking out the way it is, not only this year but for next year, I could see Hall and McMorris, the wide receivers, maybe making an impact right away.
I did. I shouldn't say. I think wasn't there some injury talk with one of them, or maybe both of them
I want
at
to
some point,
say Hall, but
or
Hall is
maybe
what I
McMorris.
saw at least. I don't
I
know.
want, or yeah, maybe any, but yeah, I think both could have a chance to make an impact. And I mean, as far as the quarterback position for me, I think it's really going to be interesting to see how Heinrich Haarberg, does over these next 6 games. And I think I still don't think he's done, maybe enough to, get that co-starter removed, like Heinrich or Jeff Sims. I think that or is still going to be there when we see the depth chart this week, but I think he's getting closer. I think it's like, it was in permanent ink. Maybe it's like, it's getting closer to erasing it, like every single week, it's not always pretty, right? It's not always perfect. He missed some throws in that last game, but you know what? Like he's learning. And I think as long as he can, if he can just keep winning games, like I would roll with him. And,
Yeah.
I think he does, as far as I did see a pretty cool stat where he's one of the few quarterbacks with a certain amount of rushing yards and passing. I mean, so he's been really effective as a runner outside of the Michigan game. So we've got that. The passing's improved. It's still a work in progress, but I mean, at the same time, some guys drop balls too. So like it goes both ways, but I still am wondering like if we're gonna see Jeff Sims. And it's kind of like that thing I was saying before, like this team has so few kind of impact players on offense now just because of the injuries. Like
Yeah.
I just think that's why Matt is not, I think he's just like waiting to see, like, is there some point where we're going to need Jeff Sims still? And I still think there could be a time where he gets in there.
Which for me is kind of frightening, but I understand why. And I think honestly we don't have a ton of weapons like you just kind of alluded to at wide receiver. I mean, the Marcus Washington news earlier this week is definitely out for the season with an ACL injury is not what you want to hear. And so, now it's going to force, Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss. I'm trying to think, Jalen Lloyd, those guys, they could play a pretty big role here down the stretch. And, if they came here wanting playing time, they're going to get it. And, I think it'll be interesting to see how they develop over the course of the next couple games and how big of an impact they make because, the last staff didn't do a good job of developing players for, future seasons and multiple years. Yes, the situation isn't ideal, having, all these injuries and having freshmen play right away, but it does give the program an opportunity to kind of hone in on that development aspect that the previous coaching staff couldn't.
And I think it's important, like Malachi Coleman got, he had some chances in that,
Yeah.
and actually threw a really nice block on, It might have been a touchdown run. I don't quite remember, but at any rate,
I do
I
remember
think
that block you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. So I think this bye week could be really important for those. I mean, I think they've really got to hone in and try to get them ready because there is a lot of talent there. And Matt said that receivers it is complicated. Like high school systems are usually not complicated. And that goes for, I mean, yes, some teams run spread stuff and they, it might look like a college offense, but it's not most of the time. There's simple reads. And as from a receiver perspective, it's just a totally different thing. And we've heard some things about how complicated this offense is. I don't know it personally, but some offenses, you can have, like where you're running a route and it's, you and the quarterback are both trying to read the defense and do like an option type thing based off what the defense is giving you. And that type of thing can take time. It can take, I don't know. That's like a West Coast type thing. So I'm not really sure Nebraska's doing that, but it does receivers a little bit easier than running back where it's like, here's the ball, go run here. And I know it's not that there's more to it than that, but it's just a little easier to progress as a running back than as a receiver where, especially, I mean, Malachi too was hurt last year. So I think that, something that people forget a little bit. So he didn't play a ton as a high school senior. But I like what I've seen from him. I've liked what I've seen from Doss and Lloyd. But yeah, Marcus Washington was a killer this week. Not that I didn't expect it, after basically, Matt didn't encourage me. I wasn't encouraged after the game. You could kind of see the writing on the wall. It's just a bummer because he's been the most consistent downfield threat. Kemp has been probably the most consistent just catching the ball, but Washington, it seemed like whenever he was healthy, he was making explosive plays. He just couldn't stay healthy. So it's just a shame to see that happen.
He was a good route runner too, and quite honestly, one of the only receivers on the team that was able to get some sort of separation right now. So, I mean, and I thought Washington, did his job well last year as well. I mean, you had Casey Thompson looking for Trey Palmer almost every play, understandably, and Washington was kind of in the background as a complimentary receiver, but he did well, I thought, and so it was a really big blow just because that takes away some experience in the room. And, that's important too for what is going to be a very young unit moving forward.
So let's see a catch up here with some. So Sam said Sims will get a start. You don't lose your spot because of injury. Whoops. And so yeah, I agree with that. And then Troy Rockwell, thanks for the comments, guys. Only concern I have with Harburg is the throwing motion. So yeah, it's not perfect, and I don't think it's ever gonna look perfect with Heinrich Harburg. It's not gonna,
No.
What he reminds me of, what I think he could be, is like a Jamal Lord type. People remember Jamal Lord. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But he basically was the quarterback after Eric Crouch, and his first year they were like 7-7. I don't know what they played. They played Eli Manning in the bowl game, and it wasn't a great year. But the next year they went like 10-3, and like he wasn't a great passer, and but his numbers, he finished as one of the more productive quarterbacks in Nebraska history, like in terms of running the football and doing some passing things. And I just think that Heinrich Carber could be that type of guy. I'm not saying, he's not ever going to be, Taylor. He's not going to be T Magic. He's not going to be Crouch. He's not going to be Frost. But I think he could be a Jamal Lord. I think he's a guy you can win 9 games with and could compete. Obviously the Big Ten West isn't going to be anywhere next year. It will be no more. But I do think that Heinrich Harburg, in the right scenario with the right situation, can win 8 or 9 games as a starting quarterback.
I agree. And, one of the things that he does well is take care of the football. I mean, and that may seem like a little thing, but that definitely means, quite a bit in the grand scheme of things. And, his ability to take care of the football will get him far. And, I'm interested to see, what he does with Nebraska here as the season progresses, because this back half of the schedule is difficult as well.
And yeah, taking care of the ball. If Nebraska had done that, they would be 4-2 right now. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is huge. As you said, it's massive as the quarterback. So Sam, Frost took 18 receivers, only 3 finished or will finish at Nebraska. That's not a good stat. Explain. Well, all our eggs in the basket. Yeah, basically. I mean, yeah, that's how that whole situation worked out. Just a lot of stuff that that was beyond the, I guess, the control of the coaching staff. I mean, but the Xavier Betts departure really was
Yeah.
a bummer. Just to, but look, if he doesn't want to play football, I don't begrudge him that. He shouldn't have to. Like if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's I mean that's up to you. I totally get that, but from a team perspective, that did hurt because he, even in the short time he was there, he seemed like he could be a difference maker.
Yeah, I remember, reading about that loss, writing about the loss of Betts, and man, that was a killer. But at the same time, this gives other players opportunities to grow and step up. And unfortunately, we're going to have to see development in real time on many aspects of this team. Um,
So a few games back, I could see from Steve here from Texas. A few games back, I could see us getting to 6-6, but with the continual injuries, putting many out for the season, can you see us getting to a bowl game? I mean, we talked about this a lot on our Monday podcast. We spent a lot of time, and but let's talk about it again. I guess we didn't have the injury news, but what do you think, Danny? Bowl game or no bowl game?
yes, we don't have a sexy offense, but it, moves the football. And as long as we convert on our red zone opportunities, I do see us getting to a bowl game. Yes.
I think so too. I think the defense is pretty sexy. I've been pretty happy with the defense over the first I haven't. It's been a long time since. I mean, I'm not saying like it's exciting. You want to have the ball, but it's fun to watch this defense play. It's been a long time since I've said that.
I know it's been what, 5 years?
Maybe longer because there were some Pelini years that were fun, but not the last couple,
No.
man. When we were giving up 80 to Wisconsin. But in terms of, to answer your question, Steve, yes, I think Nebraska is going to beat Northwestern. I think we're going to beat Purdue. I think we're going to beat Michigan State, and then I think we're going to beat.
Iowa.
I think we're going to beat Iowa. I think we're going
Yeah.
to beat Iowa, and maybe that's a little over optimistic. Maybe I'm hyped up on the coffee right now. I don't know, but I just feel like that's going to happen. Michigan State's just not very good. I mean, they're switching to a new quarterback this week, Caden Hauser, who was a former 4-star. They're playing at Rutgers, or I can't remember if they're, not that it matters, home or away against Rutgers, but they have an interim head coach. That's a winnable game. And I truly believe, Matt Rule said it this week, we can win every game and lose every game. And that's 100% true, because they could lose to Michigan State, even though they're not because you play on the road. I mean, if you're a team like Nebraska, any Big Ten road win is a good win, because this league is tough to win games in. So I do think that Nebraska is going to get 6. I think they're going to get 7. I think they're just going to get 7 regular season wins. Just how good are the defense? I don't know. I think it could be right there with the best in the Big Ten West. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think Iowa's is that much better. I just don't think they've played anybody.
And I don't think, the Michigan game, Michigan made everybody look stupid, and they have made everybody look stupid. So I don't think, Michigan was necessarily a fair judgment of the defense as a whole. Yes, we got absolutely thrashed, but Michigan has been doing that to everybody. So
Yeah, they did that. And Minnesota has a pretty good defense, and they made them look silly last week. So
yeah,
I think that
Michigan's good.
yeah, Michigan is, well, I think too, Michigan, I think they not that they took exception, but I just think they were I think they looked at Nebraska as a solid challenge. I think that they were motivated, and everybody was like, "Oh, you guys haven't played anybody," and blah blah blah. And so I just, and they saw all the talk about how awesome Nebraska's run defense was, and they're like, "Watch this," and so it is what it is. You're gonna have game, but that's not a reflection. Like I said, you're never as bad as you look in some of those games, right? And so I think our defense is pretty good, and I'm really excited to see how we hold up against Braylon Allen, because if you can slow down that running game, I think you can beat Wisconsin for sure.
I still remember Jonathan Taylor in 2019, I believe it was, absolutely running all over us. And although he was the opposition, as a football fan, it was pretty fascinating to watch.
Thanks for the shout out, Steve. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for everybody for listening and hanging out with us on these Saturdays in our chats. Do us a favor, though, if you're watching and you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our content. And we just want to have more people to interact with. How many teams left on our schedule will score more than 20? I don't see Iowa scoring 20 on us.
Maryland will, so I'm going to put that as 1, I think.
I could see us holding Maryland under 20 though, but
Oh, you think?
I mean, I'm not saying it would be easy, but I could see it because if the pass rush gets and it depends too. I mean, what if they come to Lincoln and it's like one of those like just shit windy weather days and you got to
I
run the
hope so.
ball and yeah, but yeah, probably I would say Maryland. I would say Maryland and Wisconsin. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
look realistically. I mean, don't sleep on Hudson Card and Purdue. Like people forget that Hudson Card's a pretty good quarterback, I think. But since that game's at home, I'm a big believer in Tony White. I just think that he is like one of the best defensive coordinators in college football that doesn't get talked about. And that was just like a genius move by Matt Rule.
I'm so glad we don't have to face Aiden O'Connell and Charlie Jones this year. Those stupid comeback routes that they ran worked every single time, and they would gain like 15 yards every one last year. So I'm glad they're no longer in the picture. Charlie, I think, is with Cincinnati, and O'Connell, I'm not sure where he ended up, but he's just
He's
not
with
on
the
Purdue.
Raiders.
Oh, he is with
He's
the
with the
Raiders. Okay.
Yeah, because he actually started like 2 weeks ago and got sacked like 8 times. So, but see, I remember last year when we played, I mean, it'd be like we'd stuff the run and be like, I remember Purdue getting so many, it seemed like 3rd and 11s against us, or like 3rd, and they're like, oh, we'll just mess around, and then 3rd and 15, we'll let them get wide open for a first down.
Well, that and because our corners had a habit of playing 15 yards off the receiver, those comeback routes worked every single time. It was like a cat playing with a mouse. It was always O'Connell to Jones for those stupid routes, and it worked like bread and butter. And then Devin Mockabee had some nice little rushes, and we couldn't stop him either. And then O'Connell absolutely juking out Ty Robinson, who looked extremely slow in overtime, was the icing on the cake.
Yeah, if he makes that tackle, probably get when that. Well, and then it was who caught it was like somebody. Well, Casey threw a pick in the end zone, but we had a play where like somebody dropped a touchdown. I think maybe Trey Palmer.
I think it might have been Trey.
Even though, I mean, I can't say Trey because Trey had like 360 yards. That was like he just went bonkers.
He did.
He had
so we can't blame him.
Yeah, like because he had like a 70-yard touchdown run and then like 3 catches over 50 yards. Like that was like one of the most insane performances. But
it was nuts because I remember like we were struggling, and then Casey literally threw a football to the sky, and Palmer came down with it, and it was a touchdown to open the half.
Man, could you imagine if he had stayed on this team though? Like we maybe would be at least 4 and we'd at least be 4-2. Maybe 5. Probably wouldn't have beat the Colorado, because of him, but we'd at least be 4-2.
Minnesota,
I guarantee it.
Would have beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably could have hung around with Colorado a little bit more. I don't know if Jeff Sims didn't drop the ball. Never mind. Don't want to go there. He's getting talked about now. We're going to need to spend money on Tony White to keep him. And don't forget the job that Terrence Knight has done. Yeah, he's done a great job. You got to give Terrence Knight credit too. We all had D-line as a weakness preseason. Now it's a strength of the team. Yeah. Nash has played outstanding. Ty Robinson's played outstanding.
Van Poppel's really stepped up here.
Yeah, and you got to give Knighton credit. That's a good point, Sam. I haven't thought about that as much, but you should. He doesn't deserve a lot of credit because Van Poppel, Princewell, Cameron. I mean, that's 3 freshmen that are playing, significant snaps in the front 7, and that's impressive to have that many guys like contributing at those positions right away.
Yeah, he's done a really good job, and he's been able to, I want to say, kind of refocus the defensive line, because now you're seeing, Nash make plays. You're seeing Ty Robinson really just play a physical brand of football. Robinson kind of has looked lost at times in his Nebraska career, but Knighton's done a good job refocusing, and physicality is a hallmark of this defensive line, and they're showing it. And I'll be interested to see, like I said, how a guy like Van Poppel grows, and things like that, because I think he's going to be a pretty good player. I mean, he definitely showed grit on that goal line stop against Illinois. That was a fantastic play, just filling the gap right there.
And all those 3 and all those guys can rush, and we should Maverick Noonan too before he got hurt. He was in the mix, so hopefully he can come back healthy next year. And I've been, this is something that bounced around my mind recently and then really vocalized it. But what happened with Eric Fields? Like he was getting talked about a ton, and I haven't heard
Yeah.
his name mentioned a lot lately.
He's like the Ramir Johnson of 2023. Last year,
Of
the
the
coaching staff.
defense.
Yeah, last year the
Yeah.
coaching staff talked Johnson up, and then they never played him. And now Fields talked up, never played. I don't know. I mean, you got to think.
I mean, yeah, I can't sit here and say he's not playing, but I don't think he is playing on special teams. I mean, I don't think I've seen him in any of like the snap reports from Pro Football Focus, unless I could totally be overlooking it. It just seems
No,
like,
I don't. I don't think you are. I think you're spot on. Which is interesting because our linebacker depth isn't great right now either. So I don't know.
but Phelan Sanford did play really well, though. I mean,
He did.
So I can't fault the coaching. I was like, for a second I was a little worried, but I've you know what, and I love that's kind of been a secondary theme, but like how many walk-on in-state guys have been like making, like Ty Hahn had the catch, and like Alex Bullock, and
Isn't Isaac
Harbor.
Gifford one of those too, or no? Was he on scholar? Was he recruited?
I don't know. I'm not sure actually,
I'm gonna look
but
that up.
yeah, but
For the,
he's but you're right though. That's another name. Yes, it's just been fun to see just the guys that because those in-state guys. It just means, and especially the guys that have walked on, because most of the time, like the overwhelming majority, like if you're good enough to be a preferred walk-on, you've had a scholarship, so you literally turn down a scholarship to try to play for Nebraska, and I respect that, and it's great to see those guys just get rewarded, because it means something to them, and that there is something to and Matt Rule said it, but there's something to recruiting those in-state guys, just the ones that it means more to, I think.
oh, for sure. And we were seeing them, really play at a high level and playing physically, and really making an impact here. I mean, Gifford, for example, has been outstanding, and just like his brother was, and that counts for something too. So I'm trying to see if Gifford is a walk on, because I believe he was, but I could be mistaken. But yeah,
And then
no,
Sam with a couple he said about Fields just needs to add some weight. As far as Phelan Sanford, Sam, he's listed as a senior on the roster. I don't know, but that doesn't always mean. I'd have to go back and look, because with the COVID stuff now, it's so you just don't know if that's like a true senior, if that if they have an extra year with COVID. So he's listed as a senior, but that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have an extra year. So, but yeah, it would be
Gifford walked on. Sorry, Chris.
okay. No, you're good. No, it's good to know, but it's just, man, it's so much. It's so funny. Now he's really he had a hell of a game too, though. I haven't talked about him enough. I know you mentioned him a lot, but he had a hell of a game on that Thursday or Friday night.
He was very good in coverage, and he was flying around the football, and he brings that kind of dirt dog mentality that you love to see on this defense. So I'm really happy he's kind of finding his role and getting the recognition he deserves, quite frankly.
Yeah, he reminds me, obviously he reminds me of his brother, just like a hard-nosed player, and just a guy, but he's a great athlete too. And that, Phelan Sanford is another one too. That's a really good athlete. And the safety room could be really good next year with Singleton coming back. And I think we're going to get, Marcus Buford back here in a couple weeks, with, I think that's the plan, to try to start him in the last 4 games and then roll them into next season and beyond. So I really like the secondary. I really like the entire defense. I feel like is in a pretty good spot.
But we have 19 people returning, so there's that too, which is good.
Yep. And yeah, so I think the defense is in a great spot. We just offensively, still some work to do, but one thing, I guess, going back to the quarterback question that I think is interesting with Matt Rule and the whole Daniel Kalen thing is because Daniel Kalen's not really a dual threat type of guy.
He's not.
So, and that you don't have to be. I mean, Matt Rule has had success with the pro style, with the dual threat. What you just need to be able to, be accurate with the football and take care of it. And this coaching staff's going to be smart enough, or at least they should be, to tailor, so if it is Daniel Kalen, like, they're going to tailor it to him, and it's going to be more of a, you think about the guys we could have like matured, when he's the quarterback, you should have Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss, Carter Nelson, Isaiah McMorris, Davon Hall, Keywan Lacey at running back. So, I mean,
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Quentin Ives. So, I mean, thinking about all those guys, though, that could be a pretty exciting offense, right? So I think, it would be, I think Danny could sit there and play point guard for those guys, but
Well, that's all you need. Yeah.
yeah, but recruiting wise, I mean, we talked about it a little before you got here, but yeah, Keywan, a little worried about, not going to lie. Notre Dame's pushing for Carter Nelson, but I think he's, Matt Rule was there. EJ Barthel was just there to see
He won.
Keywan. So I mean,
yesterday. Yep.
So that was I think Nebraska's doing all the right things. They've seen Grant Bricks, they've seen Ja'Cory Barney, Willis McGahee, Lacey. I haven't seen them be with Caleb Benning yet, but I'm sure they will. I'm sure that's on their radar. But what are you following recruiting right now?
Lacey, because we need him badly. We need Lacey badly. We could use him this year, but no,
Yeah.
I mean I'm just
Let him enroll early right now.
yeah. Same thing with Danny Kalen, to be honest with you. But anyway, no, I'm just making sure that Lacey stays put. I mean Nelson, I'm not too worried about. I'm really looking honestly at Hall and McMorris too, because our depth at wide receiver is thin right now, and we need to stockpile it for next year. Now, that all hinges on the development of Coleman, Lloyd, and Doss, because if they have solid years this year, that depth could kind of not really be a problem heading into next year. But I mean, I'm just hoping everybody stays put. Lacey's the one I'm worried about, like you, because we need running backs in the worst way. And I'm just hoping, as long as we keep winning and as long as we keep putting a solid product on the field. I mean, I think that with a lot of recruits nowadays, it's not about, Nebraska lost to Michigan. Now, we're decommitting and we don't like where we stand, but they recognize that there's a vision for the future. They kind of want to see, okay, where do I stand for the future of this program? Do I have a fit here? And I think for a lot of these recruits, like Kalen, Preston Tamua, Hall and McMorris, Carter Nelson, those guys, there's definitely a spot for them in the future and a spot for them to get impactful playing time right away. So I think, I think barring anything catastrophic, they'll be able to, stay on board and be able to make an impact sooner rather than later. And I honestly can't wait for the 24 class. It's probably one of the classes I've been most excited about in terms of following Nebraska football.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing, I guess just with Lacey, I totally agree on the I don't think the Michigan loss is like gonna be a make or break deal. And hopefully they get him because he's a big time player. And Mansky putting up insane stats. Alex Mansky, the 2025 quarterback. I don't think he has an interception yet this season. He's playing really well. But yeah, Nebraska definitely in the mix there. Some of the bigger schools probably are going to be, sniffing around. But he, if you could get Kalen and him in back-to-back classes, that would really be great. Let's see. Still missing is Quentin Ives in action. Are they going to use him the last 4 games or just redshirt him? It's hard to say. I think it maybe depends a little bit on Josh Fleeks, how productive he can be. And it's probably going to be, if we don't see Quentin Ives this, coming up in this next couple of games, he's probably going to be a red shirt. Maybe we'll see him over the last 4, So Steve, definitely need better line work with our offensive line and get more time for Heinrich Harburg and more holes to open up. What changes could you see done or changes made to make it better for the second half of the season for the offensive line? I think I guess the one change that could happen,
guard.
Well, yeah, left tackle, I'm saying.
Left tackle, yeah.
Yeah, if Teddy Prohashka could get healthy and if he could, meet his potential, because he's got, tons of potential as a left tackle, that could improve. I think just hopefully the continued development and those guys improving and getting better. But, I don't know that. I just don't know how much more they're going to get. I think Bryce Benhart's playing pretty well. Ben Scott, outside of, the stupid penalties, playing pretty well. I like what Ethan Piper's doing. He's trying to kill people in his blocks. So I feel like they're doing fairly well. I just, yeah, I agree with Sam. I am. The line is what it is at this point, except if Teddy could come on. That maybe would be the one X factor. And Fox, how often do players flip? There's a lot of things. I would say not like a ton. I mean, you don't see a ton of flips, but you probably see a couple in each class. I would think that that's a fair assessment. I'm trying to think back to last year. I feel like Nebraska flipped some, and they had some that flipped the other way. But sometimes it's like the team's like, yeah, we don't want you anymore, and the guy's like, oh, I flipped here, and it's like, well, yeah, because they didn't want you.
You're gonna get random thoughts with me on this podcast, and I gotta say, after watching Colorado quite a bit, Omarion Miller would have been very, very nice.
Yeah, Omari Miller. Yeah,
And I understand why he flipped because there's no longer the Mickey Joseph connection. But man, he
yeah,
would
he
have
was
been
a
nice. I
flip.
was watching him the other day, and he runs around so damn good. He would have been really good for this wide receiver group, especially with the injuries and knowing what we know now. But I don't know if Harburg would have been able to get the maximum potential out of him. I mean, because Shadur Sanders is very, very good. So I think honestly that was probably a better fit for him in the long run.
But they did blow a 29-point lead and lost to Stanford last night. So
They did. I mean,
tough one.
they
But
did.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just had to get that in there. But yeah, no, Ben Hart has been a good. I think that he has played well this year, and I give Donovan Rayola and the coaching staff credit for that. Yeah, we don't have anyone to get Miller the ball. You're probably right on that.
We
I
don't.
mean, Sims has the if Sims could just operate as the quarterback, I think that he does have the talent to get there. He has like a big time arm, but just I don't know if the moment's too big for him, that kind of thing. But we'll see, though. We'll see. I mean, there could come a time where Jeff Sims is bailing us out and we're all praising him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Things are crazy. You never know what's going to happen in sports, man. You can go from hero to goat and the other way around in no time at all.
Yeah, I don't know if Jeff Sims will be bailing us out, but hopefully I eat my words. As long as we make a bowl game, I don't care if Clifford the Big Red Dog is under center and we win all these games and make a bowl game. Whoever's under center, just make a bowl game and we'll figure it out from there.
All right, guys. We're coming up on the time. We got to cut her short here. Got a couple more minutes. So if you have any other comments or questions, throw them in the chat. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, though. We'll definitely plan on keeping this tradition up. Should say the volleyball team won again last night, 3-1 win over Michigan State. Next week is the Wisconsin match, so next Saturday night. So gotta win that one. But this team is looking legit. So it's funny when they throw around the volleyball school stuff. It's like, well, we're damn good at volleyball. We're getting better at football too. So
we are getting better at football. Why
no talk about Nebraska wrestling? Yeah, we could get some talk about wrestling.
Because I don't see enough matches to have an educated opinion on wrestling.
Yeah, I don't know a fair amount about the wrestling team, but yeah, it's definitely
we'll work on that.
Getting into that a little bit more. Yeah, for sure. But I'm a big fan of. I cover a lot of wrestling for my job I do high school sports, so I'm a big wrestling fan. I know Big Ten wrestling is a big deal, so
yeah, it is definitely.
We'll definitely get some. Wrestling team is going to place in the top 3 this year. Heck yeah, it is football season though. Too.
It is.
It's not quite wrestling season yet, but we'll be soon. It's going to be basketball season soon too. So we'll be talking. Some Keisei Tominaga. Got 3 world champions on the team. Nice. I did not know that. So I'll have to brush up on my wrestling knowledge. So thanks for bringing some wrestling facts, I guess, here, Fox.
No, I'm definitely gonna have to, like you said, brush up on my wrestling, and because Big Ten wrestling is a big deal. I have watched a couple matches. I think, I watched Iowa, Penn State, and whatever's on the Big Ten network. So that's the other thing. If any of these matches require me to buy, Big Ten quadruple plus with 4K HD for $70.99, then I'm probably not going to do it.
It's just too much. Yeah, I agree. It's too much. But thanks for coming on, Sam. Thanks everybody for hopping on in the chat. We really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun to interact with all you Nebraska fans. So make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button if you're watching it on the replay. Hit subscribe, hit like, get into the comment section, and check out HuskerBigRed.com. We got a lot of great content there, and we will continue that throughout the season, and we will work on our wrestling content as well. So as always, guys, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.